Welcome back, YouTubers, to another TNA Impact Wrestling review of us, the British Fist.
Gotcha.
NJ, you're bobbing your head like you got some beat going down there, man.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I'm Mr. Parkin. This guy sitting next to me is the none other than Chicka. Give me a beat, NJ.
Say it with me, people. What's up?
Make sure you guys subscribe above, like this video, and comment your thoughts, opinions on this TNA Impact Wrestling show down in that comment section below.
Now I'll let you say my line, people. Make sure you contact us and leave some good thoughts below.
It's nice to see you're really trying to interact with the YouTubers here. They probably know your line by now. You say it every video, so there we go. So TNA Impact Wrestling. I think it's fair to say that TNA Impact Wrestling has been quite good recently. We've been enjoying the product, especially you doing their pay-per-view at Genesis. And I do feel that TNA with Pritchard, you know, they got the pacing of their show sorted. The pacing of the show is a lot better than it used to be with Russo. I think the only issue for me with TNA shows is what they feature. What storylines they feature on the show sometimes, because we had a couple of things tonight which are a bit like, why? That's the only thing I'll say about TNA shows at the moment. The only thing really making these shows from being really good.
Well, with what we're getting on the show, they all have to mean something, go up to the pay-per-view, and throwing in odd things doesn't really give the show a good feeling or meaning. But other than that, the show went pretty well, which you'll hear in this review. Yeah,
exactly. You'll see what we mean when we get to it. But we open up the show with none other than the Cowboy James Storm. He comes out talking about how he won the #1 contendership last week. So glad to see that James Storm is finally back in that title scene again.
And it's good that you're hearing him talk a lot about Bobby Roode and how he's going to go up and eventually face him, because it shows you that he wants to go for the championship. He's not forgotten about it, and that's his goal to aim to.
That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see, Storm versus Roode. But then we get, just as I'm thinking, Storm versus Roode, oh, here we go. Out comes Jeff Hardy saying how he got screwed over in the last 2 matches and that he wants he deserves to be in the title picture. Then you get Robert Roode coming out and saying that Storm's #1 contendership because of the DQ finish last week was void. And then you have Sting, the authority figure now, saying that we're going to have a main event #1 contendership match between the Cowboy James Storm and Jeff Hardy in the main event of the evening. Woo!
He makes a point that they both failed and they don't deserve this shot and it should be for someone else. But obviously, with Sting getting involved, the match was made and we're going to get a #1 contender.
Is it me or is Sting just a way more entertaining version of Teddy Long?
He definitely gets his point across out there and people are getting behind. They like to see him. So, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Storm, and with Sting being out there, you really did a good job, in my opinion, of getting the crowd pumped. The whole segment itself was short and to the point. We had build for that main event, build for a possible pay-per-view match, interaction between Storm, Hardy, and Roode, and even Sting there. So, the only thing I'll say from this is, I really want to see a Storm versus Roode feud. I hope this happens, but this is a very short and to the point segment. That's how TNA should start their shows, and they've been doing it very well recently. Always seem to have a very good opener and a very good main event.
They hyped up the main event, which was needed, but the thing is, we don't know what this championship is going to be for. This #1 contender is going to be for. Yeah. What is it going to be for? When?
Yeah, they didn't announce the pay-per-view, but still, we're getting some build. Pay-per-view's in what, 3 weeks' time? So I think we'll get more onto that into the main event. But next we had Gunner, who's coming out with the Rimpin' Pimpin' Ric Flair versus AJ Styles. This match went about 4.5 minutes. It probably could have gone on a little bit longer, but at least what this segment did, it accomplished what it was supposed to, in the sense that you had Gunner and AJ wrestle for about 4.5 minutes. You had Daniels forcing Kaz to interfere reluctantly, and you continue a storyline while also making Gunner look strong. So in all, this segment really did seem to accomplish what it needed to accomplish, despite the match maybe being a little bit on the short side, in my opinion.
Well, the way I look at this is that their concentration in this was really Gunner building up his character, but at the same time, on the other hand side, you had the Kazarian, Daniels, and AJ thing going on. So they did 2 things in one, but with Gunner actually going as big as AJ, it was going to be a good match overall anyway. Yeah, I mean, after the match, you had Gunner trying to injure AJ with the DDT on the concrete, but AJ runs out. I mean, it was a good segment. I thought this accomplished a couple of things, making Gunner look strong and continuing this AJ Kaz storyline. So it did its job. We also had a backstage segment with Bully Ray addressing Sting, saying that he deserves a title shot. He hasn't lost a match since being a singles wrestler. I can recount various times, Bully Ray, where you've lost a match, and at least this week you weren't plugging Twitter. That's all I can say, brother. And Sting basically stamps his authority, saying, you employee, me boss. I will decide when you're ready for a title shot, brother. Yeah, Bully Ray didn't like that. He stood there a bit like, what did you just say?
Yeah. But little did we know he would have effects in the main event. After that, we had a singles match between Crimson and Magnus. You know, the couple. Let's just get this out of the way first. You had a singles match between the two, and their tag team partners didn't come out. It was a bit weird. I thought that was strange. I thought they should have at least their tag team partners come out. And also, Crimson wins this in 1 minute, clean. Kind of buries Magnus a little bit, doesn't it? And despite the fact that afterwards Magnus and Samoa Joe attacked the tag champs, and it's making a tag team feud, I was just thinking to myself, you know, at least make the match go on longer, make Magnus look somewhat decent. This is just kind of burying him a little bit.
Because the main thing I was looking at this is that, oh, we have a contender versus the tag champ. Yep. I'm thinking, okay, let's see. They both look strong because they're both going to eventually go against each other again. And the minute really made me feel that they're not really concentrating on this particular feud as strong as they could do, but the aftermath made up for the match. The
aftermath definitely made up for it. You had Samoa Joe coming out attacking Crimson. Then after what seemed like an eternity, you had Matt Morgan coming out saving Crimson, but then getting beaten down by Magnus and Joe. And I'm just glad now we've had 2 weeks, 2 segments hyping up a tag team feud. And then afterwards we found on the TNA Facebook that there would be a match between these two against all odds. So you could say negative with the match, but positive with the post-match, and the positive kind of, you know, really builds their match okay, in my opinion.
Well, the way I see it is that they're making the contenders look strong by taking out Matt Morgan and Crimson, and it's making me really see that these two could be compatible wrestlers to go on, but become the champs eventually, maybe.
Yeah, even though they buried Magnus a little bit. You know, but it was overall a decent segment. One thing we didn't like this week, and it's something which TNA do sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. They have a whole TV segment of backstage video packages. We had a recap of that whole last week Bischoff versus Bischoff segment. Then you have Garrett Bischoff training, you know, live to win, back it up, and it done, and send it down. That's standard.
I'm coming for you, Bischoff.
Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff, eat your heart out. Your son is coming after you. If I could make a video of that for my dad, I'm sure he'd be fucking scared as well. You had the more tease to who. It's going to be Hogan, isn't it? His trainer. It's definitely going to be Hogan.
It will be indeed, because of all the other people that are involved, you wouldn't really picture them to make a big thing, because it said Bischoff will be surprised, so it'll be Hogan.
Then afterwards, we had a recap of that Genesis bullshit finish in the Knockouts match, and we had some builds to the Knockouts cage match, which was after this, but a whole TV segment full of backstage and video packages is not very good to watch, is it, as a viewer?
No, they could have spread this out, or maybe not even had some of these segments, but again, it kind of lacked that whole part there.
Yeah, after that we had the Madison Rayne versus Mickie James in a cage match. This was basically a rematch from Lockdown when we had that 30-second squash match because Mickie James was injured, so they squashed Madison Rayne big time. Thank God she's talentless. But the match itself, we had that whole thing with Gail Kim beforehand going out there to help Madison Rayne, but she went quickly, didn't she?
Pretty quick, and I'm not really sure what happened there, but maybe she got sent back. But the match itself, again, I was getting into it because obviously it was a bit of Mickie James dominated, but obviously Madison Rayne had a little point of knocking Mickie James out. I think, to be honest, I don't usually like cage matches on free TV, but I guess I'm just trying to look at this in a different way. It kind of fits in with the whole story. I don't really like the fact they're having a cage match. But again, I can see what they're doing. They're trying to get Mickie James to have revenge on Madison Rayne before she probably goes after Mickie James. They had a commercial during the match, which kind of didn't help too much. But in my opinion, 9 minutes was a bit too long for this, just because it's Madison Rayne, and she's not the most accomplished wrestler of all time, and I don't see why they're making the match go so long. But on the other hand, 9 minutes of knockouts action, which wasn't bad, it's better than what you're going to get on WWE TV, where you're going to get that amount of action in 10 weeks of Diva segments. No, I look at this match and think, okay, you're concentrating on Mickie James and Madison. I'm just thinking, what's going to come next? Maybe go back to Gail Kim. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, and we had a backstage interview afterwards, which I like because it continues the segment on. It shows the reaction. Mickie James saying she's now going to go after the title, talking about her injury, and then you've got Velvet and Tara, and they're also saying that they might want a shot. So who knows what's going to happen there? But it's nice they had the match. They had pre-match, match, and then post-match. It makes the segment feel a little bit more important when they do stuff like that.
They were really concentrating on the main knockouts.
Yeah, Mickie James.
Yes, I think it was really nicely done.
After this match, we had what was essentially probably the segment of the night, in my opinion. We had Austin Aries coming out to cut a promo, but beforehand we had the recap of that fantastic Genesis match and how Austin Aries is talking about how there is no one at his level, talking about how he's pretty much the best and he's the expert of the AA division. So they had this nice little sort of video package for him before the match. And then you had the promo itself where Aries just comes out and talks about how he's the best and how nobody can beat him. Until who Who comes out, NJ? Who comes out?
Alex Shelly.
Yes, and this is something we've wanted to see for a long time, isn't it? Alex Shelly, but who's essentially, in my opinion, one of the top baby faces in the X Division at the moment, and Austin Aries, who's one of the top heels. So I saw him come out, and I was thinking, against all odds, these two, oh, this is going to be awesome. But the segment itself was really well done, in my opinion. The way they had the pre-match, the segment itself was really good. The interaction between Austin Aries and Shelly was fantastic, I thought.
Yeah, when they were talking to each other, you had Austin Aries saying that he's the best, and obviously he's a fighting champion. Yeah. And Alex Shelley needs to prove himself by getting a wrestler to face him, and if he wins that, maybe he'll think of giving a championship match.
Yeah, so in this segment, we got build for the feud, which we want to see. We got build for the pay-per-view, which essentially this is going to happen at the pay-per-view, and we got build for next week in the sense that we're going to have a match where Shelley's going to have to prove himself and probably beat someone of Austin Aries' choosing. So this segment accomplished a lot, and I really enjoyed the interaction between Aries and Shelly, and I'm really, really looking forward to this X Division title match now.
Well, seeing these two hyping up a possible feud again, it got me really pumped up to see this match, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next.
Yeah, one of the best segments of the night, in my humble opinion. So after this segment, we had a backstage segment where Winter beats down ODB, and then we had the Angelina Love versus Eric Young match. You know what? Spike have recently done this thing where they're really neglecting male on female violence. So it really makes me wonder why the fuck they have this match. I mean, do TNA not have more important things to worry about? I mean, this was just such bullshit in my opinion. Why even have this?
And the fact that you had Love asking for this match, I really weren't liking that idea. I'm thinking you should just maybe have stuck to ODB and had a match there. Eric Young wrestling a knockout. Yes, you saw the segment backstage when he didn't want to do it, but it was still horrible.
And all this is basically going to forward an Eric Young ODB relationship. And even though Eric Young got a good reaction, he always does in that crowd because he's a doofus. And then the segment kissing is kind of like, oh god, really, we're going to see more of this. Filler. Do we want this on the TV? I don't.
No, throughout the night we get to see Eric Young and ODB a bit too much. I'm thinking they're not your concentration. But I will say this. Just like when I first started watching TNA, they do have the 2 knockout segments, all matches. Yeah. And I'm thinking that is good. It shows you they've got a kind of a big roster. To get more knockouts involved was a benefit.
Yeah. And after this segment, we had the main event of the evening, which we learned earlier in the night was James Storm versus Jeff Hardy, the #1 contendership match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. We had interviews with Hardy and Storm. They weren't very long, but they still did their job of hyping up to that main event, didn't they? The little interview segments they had.
Yeah, again, I like when they do that because it gets them speaking, getting them prepared for this match, because this was exactly what they needed, because this is going to lead up to a title match later.
Yeah, and in this match, we had a commercial about 2.5 minutes into the match, but the match itself went about 10 or so minutes. The commentators even said during the match that still no one has heard from Abyss. So I'm guessing that this whole thing with Abyss has kind of been put on hold a little bit, especially considering what happened after the match. The match itself was very good, though.
Wasn't it? You took Abyss out. Oh my gosh.
What did you think of the match between? They're essentially 2 of TNA's biggest baby faces at the moment, Storm and Hardy. Hardy seemed more over than Storm, in my opinion, but the match itself was still decent between these two. Pretty good main event.
Well, with this match being made, it had what people wanted to see, because these two are 2 great wrestlers going up against each other, and it was all determined who's going to be facing Bobby Roode. So the way they performed, they both wanted this, and it really told a kind of good story.
Yeah, and even though this match didn't end clean, at least this main event got a decent amount of time, and the post-match had some kind of relevance. The match didn't end clean. You had Buddy Ray coming out, attacking all the referees. That was funny shit. Attacking James Storm, attacking Jeff Hardy. You had Sting coming out with a bat to take Bully Ray away to allow Roode to come in to have his little moment, taking out James Storm and Jeff Hardy with the belt and announcing that this match was a no contest. And still, your World Heavyweight Champion, Bobby Roode! So this ending was, despite the match not ending clean, the ending was still decent in my opinion.
I like the ending, but I would have had maybe both came out and had like a 2-on-2 attack. But overall, looking past that, it led to what we could possibly see. Yeah. Like, we could see Storm.
Could see a triple threat.
Yeah, so it could lead to anything. I really like how they finished this. They wrapped up with possibilities, yeah. So with the champ on top, it led to anything could happen now. Yeah, so it looks like we're either going to get a triple threat between Roode, Storm and Hardy, or maybe they're going to do a Roode Storm program with a Hardy Bully Ray program, and I much prefer the latter, Roode and Storm, and having
Hardy versus Bully Ray, because those two are very logical feuds, and they do what they need to do for both of the guys, the baby faces in it, and that's get Hardy on his road to redemption and have Storm go after his belt again. So I want to see that those two feuds, and I hope this is giving us a tease that those are the two feuds going into Against All Odds, because I'd want to see those feuds.
It would be good to see, because obviously it gives them both something to do and makes logical sense for what we've been given in the past.
Yeah. So even though we had a no contest finish, we still felt the main event accomplished what it was supposed to accomplish, and that is we got no number one contender, but Hardy and Bully Ray may be a higher priority for Hardy now, especially after being screwed 3 times. But who really knows where they're going to go with this? I guess we'll find out next week. So would you say that was a good ending to Impact this week?
It did what it was needed, and I quite agree with the way they finished it. But with the number one contender finish with the DQ, who knows what they can do next? Yeah,
and also, it makes us look forward to the next week's TV show, and also Rude comes out on top, so it's a good segment. What are your overall thoughts on Impact this week then, NJ?
I quite enjoyed it. Yes, they had the backstage segments that maybe weren't needed or just pretty pointless. But the matches themselves, yes, some of them could have had better length. But overall, it flowed nicely and it had possible leading up to the pay-per-view, so I liked it.
Yeah, and despite a couple of segments in there which really weren't seemingly relevant, what they did, the segment with Alex Shelley and Austin Aries, the main event was pretty good, the opener was pretty good. I thought some of the other segments did a job, despite the fact they had some flaws in them. So overall, this show, again, the pacing is brilliant. I think Pritchard's doing a great job with the pacing. Maybe just what storylines they pick, but there was some pay-per-view build in there. I think Against All Odds is still 3 weeks away, so they've got plenty of time to announce matches. But at least we can see some kind of possible direction which they're going to go in, going into Against All Odds, which pleased me about this Impact. I did enjoy Impact this week. I thought it was a B minus show. It was still a good show. It continues the good Impact shows we're seeing from TNA lately. And I'm glad.
And throughout the night, things stood out to you to possibly see which direction they're going to be going in, which they need to give you, because obviously if it's all going to lead up to matches at the pay-per-view, they need to start giving you hints and direction. So thumbs up to that.
Yep. Grade from you?
Mine would be B minus, just because I felt that there was a lot of good direction for the pay-per-view, early build towards it, and good direction. So,
but there was also some filler as well, so that kind of grades it down a little bit. B minus. I think B minus is a fair grade. It was a good show. So make sure you guys get your thoughts and comments on this show down in that comment section below. We want to hear your thoughts, and we will reply to you as soon as possible. Also, make sure you check out our SmackDown review, which is going to come out tomorrow. NJ, do your thing and end this review like you do always.
Well, people, this has been another TNA review from the British Fist. And all we can say now is, hopefully you've enjoyed as much as we have. You've agreed with some of the points that we have. If not, leave your comments below. And all I can say now is, till next time, people, from Mr. Parkin and me, NJ, goodbye.